In under 25 minutes, I'm going to be teaching you the basics behind Python operators. More specifically, this video is going to be covering arithmetic, comparison, logical, and assignment operators through 28 different examples. The code also will be available for you on my website. I'll be putting a link down below in the description. With that being said, I'm going to use Google Colab. Feel free to use whatever you want to compile your Python code, and let's get started. All right, so we're going to start off with arithmetic operators. And to get started with that, let's define two different variables. I'll call them X and Y, and set them to numbers. Now, you don't have to use the exact same numbers that I do, but let's go and think of some numbers. Let's say 11, and then Y equals 8. Why 11 and 8? I have no idea, but let's keep moving forward. So we're going to take a look at our first example on this side of things, which is addition, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to say X plus Y, X plus Y, and you can see it's 19. Now, depending where you're compiling your code, you may have to do print X and Y. But for each of these statements in Google Colab, I can just put the statement down below, run the cell, and it will work properly. So either way, how you want to do it, I'm going to use print like this just because not everyone will be using Google Colab. But example 1 is addition. The second type of arithmetic operator is subtraction. So example 2, which is subtraction. And honestly, all you have to do is switch the plus sign to a minus sign. So X minus Y, X is being 11, Y being 8, we get 3. Now, let's take a look at multiplication. So example 3, multiplication. Multiplication, I misspelled that horribly. Okay. All you do is take the minus sign, convert that to this star over here, and 8 times 11 is 88. Then there is division. So fourth example, division, X divided by Y, and you can see 1.375. Okay, now what we're going to do is look at modulus. So that's this over here, the percent sign like this. 5. Okay. And what this is this is a leftover. So if you think about 11 divided by 8, right? You can have 8 once, and then there's a remainder of 3. That's what your modulus gives you. And what you'll see a lot, kind of like coding interviews, but people ask, is this divisible by 2 or even number? So you use that in those instances. So example 6 is exponents. So example 6, and all we're going to do is print, and X, we'll put 2 stars this time. We'll put 2, and we should get 121. Okay. And the last example is floor division. So example 7 will go into floor division. And essentially, this is rounds down. So 11 divided by 3, right? If we normally do that, so 11 divided by 3, you can see it's 3.6, and it repeats. Well, by using 2 of these right over here, we go down. So even though it is 3.6, we round it down to 3. And that's our case of using floor division. Okay, so essentially some basic math, right, on the arithmetic side of things: plus, minus, multiply, divide, modulus, which may be new to you. Then we have exponent, and then we have floor division. So let's move on to the next side of things, which is comparison operators. Real quick, for the modulus, I mentioned even numbers. All you have to do is modulus 2 like that on the even numbers side of things. Skipped over that, so I do apologize. But regardless, it's how you have to do it. But let's look at comparison operators now. So comparison operators. Also, floor division was example 7. Okay. So let's go with our first example, which is going to be equal to. Comparison operators, by the way, is when you compare two different values. So I'm good with using x and y again. So if you need those referenced, right? X and y. And this pound or hashtag that I'm putting is a comment. So if you're not too familiar with that, brand new to Python, which I assume a lot of you guys are. Okay. So what we're going to take a look at this time is our first example, which is equal to. So equal to, and we're going to say is print x equals y. And we're going to get this to be false. But one thing you may notice is, wait, why is there two equals? When you're comparing, you need to have two equal signs, right? And obviously x and y are not the same. So that is false. Also, I need to put example 8 here. Example 8 equal to, but there's also the opposite, right? So we can go example 9, which is not equal to, and all we have to do is look on to the left. So on the left over here, instead of a second equal sign, you just put the exclamation mark like that, and look, true, because those are different values, okay? Now, you might remember a lot of these from algebra or even earlier math classes, but you also have your greater than sign, right? X is greater than there, so greater than, and you'll see it's true. Then you have less than, so example 11 is less than, right? You flip that around, X is less than Y, false, because X is 11. Then you have greater than or equal to, so example 12, greater than or equal to. And this time we have equal sign to the right? And then we have the sign over here to the left. Same exact formatting as the not equal to. Just remember, equal sign is going to go to the right. And you can see this is true because this is 11. And we're going to say less than on this side of things and just swap this over. And you'll see that is false. Now, up here, pretty self-explanatory, right? These numbers are equal. These numbers are not equal, greater than, less than. Essentially what this does is if it hits two use cases, it'll mark as true. So X has to be greater than Y or X is equal to Y. So like this is identical. Essentially, it's looking at two conditions and one of these has to be met, right? X is greater than Y or X equals Y. And you can combine those into this greater than or equal. With this down below, it's literally the opposite. So you just go over here. Well, not fully the opposite, but just swap this for a sign, right? X is less than Y or X is equal to Y. So that was just a quick recap of our next section, right? Our comparison operators. So equal, not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal, and then less than or equal to. And you can also chain these together. So let's take a look at example 14. And there's a lot of combinations that you could use when combining these together. So I'm not going to cover them all. We can put chained comparison. But essentially you could go over here and say print and 5, right? Then you can put X in here and 15 like that. And this will output true, right? And these are all Boolean responses. I should have mentioned that as well, right? True or false on the comparison operators. I'll just put that over here. Boolean responses, true or false. That way I can add this to the article that I'm going to build out later. But regardless, right? Chain comparison, you can also add in over here greater than or less than, equal to, not equal to. But for comparison operator over here, right, you can also add in here the less than or equal to or greater than or equal to on that side of things if we really wanted to, right? So just to show you example 15, comparison operator v2, and go over here. And let's look at y this time. And y, if you remember, was 8. So let's just put 8 over here and 2. And we're going to say equal over there. And this doesn't, oh, y didn't change this to y. So let me change it to y, and you'll see this is true, right? Y is greater than 2, and then it's less than or equal to 8. And that is why this works over here. Awesome. All right, so we're through 15 examples now. Let's take a look at logical operators. So logical operators. And these essentially are and, or, right? And then you also have not. So we're going to go over some of these, and these are going to give you a bool result. And we're going to be testing with bools as well. Testing with bools. And if you don't remember what a bool is, right, that's true or false. So the first one to take a look at, and this is going to be our example 16. Let's also, by the way, we're going to set A equal to true and then B equal to false. Just because we used X and Y a little bit earlier, we're going to change these up. So, okay, we have A and B on this side of things. So first thing we're going to do is print out, well, first thing we're going to label example 16, and this is going to be and. So what we'll look at is print A and B, and you'll see that this is false. Now, that's because you have one true and one false. They both have to be true to equate to true, right? If one of these are false, it automatically will be false. So just to show you that this works for true, if I go over here and say true and true, which needs to be capital T's, not lowercase. I do apologize for that one, but you'll see it spits out true. Now, if we do false and false, it's still going to print out false, right? Although they are both the same, they both equate to false, and that's why it works. So true and false is going to be false. True and true is true, and then false and false is going to be false. Now, example 17, we're going to look at or. So it's going to be or. Now, this kind of works like the opposite side of things. And let me kind of just demonstrate this over here for and. What we'll do, we'll say T, TT, true, TF, false, and we'll say FF is false. Now, the opposite essentially works here, right? So TT is true. This true, false, right? Will be true, but then if it's false, false, it's still going to be false. So looking at over here, example 17, if we go A or B, right, which is that middle condition, we're going to get true this time, right? And if we go over here and true or true, we get true again. Then on this side of things, if we go false or false, guess what? We're going to get a false value. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. A little bit of memorization on the ands or ors. Remember, true, true is always going to be true, right? If you have double T's, always going to be true. If you have double F's, if you have double F, it's going to be false. True, false. If it's an and, it's false. If it's an or, it's going to be true. Now, let's take a look at not. So what not is going to do, and this is example 18. And we go over here and print not A, right? It's false. And if you go back over here, look at our A, it's true. It does the opposite, right? If we go over here and say not B, it's going to spit out true. So we're going to take a look at example 19, which is just combining logical operators. So combining logical operators, right? And essentially what we're going to do is use what we did above, right, with our comparison operators, but then also use our logical operators. And This time we're going to use integers. So integers, for example, and we're going to have a bool result. Okay. And let's create 3 variables. We'll say A, B, and C. And A will set over to 7, B will set to 3, and C will set to 20. Okay. And let's write out some code. So there's a ton of ways that you could combine logical operators. You got a ton of examples, but we're just going to do one for this video. So we're going to say print, and inside over here, we'll have A less than B. We'll say or over here, B less than C. Okay. And I print this out and it's going to be true. Now you take a look at our code, right? Is 7 less than 3? No. So this first part is false, but then over here, and I should format this better for readability purposes, 3 is less than 20. So it's true. And because of what I showed you guys above, right? With the or, if it's 1 true and 1 false, it's going to equate to true. Now you could also expand this out a lot, right? And we'll just go through it like version 2. So example 20, combining logical operators version 2, right? You could throw in a third one over here. You could say or A is less than C. It doesn't always have to be 2 things, right? But for these examples over here, it's best demonstrated with 2 to start off with. So this is still going to equate to true, right? Because this condition's met. B, C, also A, C. But let's assume like we flipped these, right? So B is greater than C. That's not true. A is greater than C. Also not true. This will populate as false. So again, you can really expand these out. There's an infinite number that we could compare. But yeah, so that's going to be example 20, combining logical operators. Lastly, let's take a look at assignment operators. So assignment operators, okay? And first thing we're going to do is we'll set A equals to 15, and we'll go through these examples. So we're going to go addition assignment first. So example 21, addition assignments. And this is when you're going to plus equal. So what we can do is A plus equals 5. And then underneath, we'll just say print A. Now, we have 15 for A, and you can see this is 20. Now, you might be a little bit confused with the syntax. Essentially, how this works is this is a shortcut to writing A equals A plus 5. And we can just say plus equals, and it solves that for us a lot faster, right? So you can do this essentially with a lot of the different stuff I showed you earlier, right? Subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus exponent, floor division. So let's do this for all these examples. So that was addition, right? Well, now let's look at subtraction. So subtraction, and all you have to do on this side of things is minus equal. So we'll say minus equals 2. And you can see we have 18 now. Let's do multiplication. So multiplication, and times equal this time. So times equal. And again, these are on the left of the equal sign. So kind of a good way to remind you on that. So let me actually put these in order, right? 21, 22, that's 23, we're at 36, okay? Now we're gonna look at division. So division, we'll divide by 6 this time. I think that's fun. So we'll divide by 6 because that's gonna be equal to 6. Now we have 6.0. Let's look at modulus. So example 25. And divide, not divide, but the modulus over here of 5, right? So now we're down to 1. And our last example is going to be floor division, but we're already at 1. So I'm just going to a plus 4. Well, let's say a equals a plus 4. Or you could use the other way I showed you, a plus equals 4, right? So now a is 5 again. And let's set up our last example, floor division. So example 26, floor division, right? And all we're going to do is a divided equals, and we'll do 2. So now print out a, which should have had it on that line. Apologize for not. So we'll print a over here, and you see we have 2, right? 5 divided by 2, 2.5, and it rounds down. So we have that side of things. Lastly, what we're going to be taking a look at is assignment operators. So this is example 27. So example 27, assignment operators with multiple variables. Okay, this is something you'll see quite a lot, and confused me when I first started learning Python, but we'll say a comma b comma c equals 1, 2, and 3. So you can assign multiple variables over here pretty easily. And what we'll do is go over here and say a, b, c equals a plus 1, b plus 2, c plus 3. And you can print all these out. So print a, b, c, 2, 4, 6. Awesome. And we'll do one more example, just swapping values. So what we can do on here is we'll do example 28. Example 28, we'll say like a, b equals b, a, right? So a is 2, b is 4 right now. And if we printed these out, you can see a is now 4 and b is 2. We swapped those values. So one more recap for you guys. We covered a ton in this video. Arithmetic, right? Think of basic things that you learned in elementary school or algebra class: plus, minus, multiply, divide, modulus. You probably didn't cover that back then, but exponents probably a little bit later, and also floor division. Then we take a look at comparison operators, right? Equal to, not equal to, greater than, less than, right? Greater than, equal to, less than, equal to. You can combine these together, which is a chain comparison, and a lot of different ways that you could do that. Then we took a look at logical operators. I used bools instead of numbers in the beginning, just as another way to compare, right? A and B, right? Ands. Then we talked about ors. Just remember, if you have true and false, they're going to be flipped for and or. And both things have to be true, or one thing has to be true for it to work. Also covered not, which is the opposite, and showed you essentially how we could combine the last two sections with an or, right? So we have these bools over here, the final result, right? A, B, B, C. And also showed you with 3 next to each other. Lastly, we looked at assignment operators, which essentially is all of our arithmetic operators over here, but we're assigning to the final answer, or not final answer, but final variable, what plus equal, right? A equals a plus 5 minus multiply, divide, modulus, right? Floor division. And lastly, we took a look at assignment operators with multiple variables, A, B, C, right? We added 1, 2, 3, and then flipping A and B. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and you've got the basics down behind Python operators. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you're brand new to Python, I have a lot more videos for you guys to check out. Link 3 down below in the description, as well as a playlist, or you can click to the playlist right here.